Hey guys, and welcome to the first episode of Something Old, Something New, where we take older games, newer games, and pit them against each other to see which ones can come out on top. In today's episode, we're doing the PS1 original Metroidvania classic, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, versus Igarashi's kickstarted spiritual successor, Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. Let's get it. Man, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, known by many gamers as one of the best PS1 games of all time. It's also the first game of the series to spawn the title Metroidvania because it combines the backtracking and item-based progression of a Metroid game with the unique universal monster style world of Castlevania. Note some of the names I have here, besides Wolf of course, especially the weird one that starts with the X. That thing gives you 99 luck, which makes the game crazy interesting. Anyway, our journey starts us off with a boy Richter, who in Dracula's eyes is a
miserable little pile of secrets.
And he's here to wipe out old Dracula. Hey, by the way, pro tip? Make sure you open up old Uncle Fengy's naked puzzle attic and grab all sorts of dope weapons you can't use because Whippy Boy's got a whip. I mean, look at some of this cool stuff. The moon rod, the firebrand, and here we are, with a chain? After you've prepped for battle, it's time to face the old philosopher himself. Make sure you destroy all of his beautiful furniture on the way to his stupid throne room since his lazy ass couldn't even be bothered to get up to greet you. And so begins our final battle, whipping old man in the face who really just wants to show you what he's hiding under that damn cloak. But little does he know you're packing the power of Jesus Christ himself. But wait, what's this? He was a dinosaur all along. Too bad, like all things, dinosaurs are no match for Jesus Christ himself. And next thing you know, boom, that fool got fatal frame. Castlevania Symphony of the Night, known by many gamers as one of the best PS1 games of all time. It's also the first game in the series to spawn the... Wait. Didn't I already do this? There's my boy, Enter Alucard, a half-vampire, half-human son of Dracula, who's not only the world record-holding 100-meter dash gold medalist, but he also holds the silver in the long jump. He's on his way to see what the hell is up with old P-Pop's castle still, existing. And so his journey of violence towards classic movie monsters commences. And then, coming in with some of the coolest sprite animation I've ever seen, Death, who's apparently a good friend of the Count, takes all of your gear to inhibit your journey, essentially putting you back at square one and starting this quest. And quite the quest you're gonna have. You'll battle your way all the way back to the throne room through all the classic locations we've come to know and love from Castlevanias of the past. Laboratories, the bridges, and of course the infamous clock tower. That thing still overflows with Medusa heads and spinning gear platforms. You'll continue this journey all while fighting bosses, gaining key items, and learning abilities that drive your progress ever forward. All of these abilities are used in some capacity to push you through the mini puzzles of the castle. The fog, for instance, makes you invincible. It also lets you slip through iron bars and basically fade through enemies. The only issue is it drains your magic very fast. The bat gives you the ability to fly, making out-of-reach areas accessible. It also consumes much less magic, letting you make use of its air dash and mobility for much longer than the fog. Abilities also have upgrades, like how the fog can turn into a volatile cloud of urine that melts away any unfortunate soul who drifts into your mist. While you're using the bat familiar, you can actually get a team of little bat homies that rock shop with you. When one shoots a fireball, they all shoot the fireball. I definitely saved my favorite for last. The wolf transformation has the ability for high-speed dash that when paired up with timed jumps, can really clear some distance in the castle. And after some unexpected Belmont shenanigans, you end up going to what's known as the inverted castle. If you like the first one, you're gonna love this one. Second verse, same as the first, only upside down, and with tougher bosses and enemies. How do you combat such a stern batch of foes? Well, if you've had RNG on your side by now, you're probably decked out with some of the dopest weapons an action platformer has ever seen. And by dope, I mean, let's check some of these bad boys out. Man, check this joker out. It's the Heaven Sword. It's kind of like that yo-yo ball from the 90s, only highly more bladed. What's more, if you have two of them, you can summon a wall of these things to utterly shred your enemies to nothing. Say you're sick of fighting the big bads on your own. Well, you can just use the two-handed Sword of Dawn. Using the Hadoken motion from Street Fighter, you can summon your own army of the dead, consisting of knights, wizards, clerics, archers, and whatever the hell else you can think of to take care of those problems for you. There are also combo weapons, my favorite being the Skull Shield and Shield Rod combo, which make a huge undead laser weapons platform that can melt bosses. Another badass weapon are the fists that let you do a 100 punch and a Hadoken, depending on the button combinations. With the fist, you could... With the fist, you could... If you get all the... You can... Come on! Jesus Christ! With the fist, you... Oh my god. Damn it. Fine. Pippin, you're up. Yeah, and so there's the Chrysogrim. That flash of blades you're seeing right now is hands down the most broken weapon in this game. It hits everything hundreds of times, obliterating your foes instantly. Oh, bosses? Yeah, don't make me laugh. Here's Shaft, the second to the last boss. And yeah, less than 3 seconds. Oh, and how about Dracula, final boss of the game? Yeah, another joke. If Dracula didn't want to get throttled so hard, he shouldn't have trusted the Chrysogrim to a ghost named Shmoo. And with that vulgar display of violence past us, we get to meet up with Maria and old Ricky Boy to celebrate the disappearance of that castle once again. Dad's dead, the day is saved, and peace can once again bless Europe until someone else resurrects Dracula. Before I start talking about Bloodstained, I want to talk about something that is a personal preference of mine. When it comes to platforming, just video games in general, my tiers of the graphics that I go for is I prefer sprite-based games, of course, number one, top tier. Past that, kind of hand-drawn games, kind of like how Arc System does with BlazBlue, or some of their other more hand-drawn games. And past that would be cell shading, Jet Set Radio Future, Dragon Ball FighterZ, games of that nature. And the lowest for me would be like the polygon models. I'm not saying I dislike polygon models or anything, but just that's kind of where I'm at. Sprites, hand-drawn, cel-shaded polygon models, and I guess like vector graphics. Anyway, I'm only saying that to lead into the first point about Bloodstained, which is when I first put on Bloodstained and saw the 3D models over the sprites of Castlevania. I guess disappointed wouldn't be the word, because that's kind of where we're at now. But at first I was like, whew, this is kind of a little ugly. But it grew on me. It definitely grew on me. And I'll show you why there's a lot of advantages to it. When you first start up Bloodstained, you find yourself realizing that this game is going to have a lot to live up to. Being a crowdfunded game that was born purely of nostalgia, it has to hit a lot of notes while still being different enough to be its own game. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Straight out the gate, I thought this game was ugly as sin. I mean, wrecked up boat, knockoff Tentacruel looking enemies. Like I said before, I'm personally a sprite guy, so when I saw this, a little disappointed. But then we get to the first boss, and I'm gonna be honest, I actually had to heal up mid-fight with this thing, which is not something I normally have to do in games like this, especially on the first boss. But this is where the depth really starts kind of kicking in. Upon beating the boss, you gain a shard. Granted, you've probably gotten a few from the enemies on the boat so far, depending on your luck. But this one's more powerful, kind of a more, stronger ability. At this point, you kind of make the realization that, well, every enemy in the game drops an ability. Now, for someone a little OCD like me, this is a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, I have to have all the shards, so I end up grinding. The blessing part being that you get dope abilities, weapons. I mean, this game has a lot to offer. It's freaking sweet. The cursed part is the fact that since you are grinding, inevitably you level up too much, and pretty much later in the game I blew past enemies like they were nothing. Back to the graphics. Here's that advantage I was talking about earlier, the character customization. Throughout the castle you can get items and unlockables that can give you many different ways to change how you look. Another cool thing is the different weapons, helmets, cloaks, armors. A lot of these give you a visual difference as well. Another awesome thing about this game is how they tied the weapon abilities to specific weapons like Symphony of the Night. However, once you master the ability, you can use the technique with any weapon of the same type. Now for one of the best features they added hands down, crafting. You can craft abilities, level up your shards, and yeah, create weapons and armor based on the drops you get throughout your adventure. Of course, all the best stuff in the game comes from this process. Speaking of weapons, let's just get down to it. There are a ton. First off, you could dash in all Don Quixote style with this crazy Lu Bu style spear. And it very well would not be a Castlevania knockoff if you didn't have a whip of some kind. And check this out, with the abilities you can transfer from weapon to weapon, like I said earlier, you can basically cast this tornado with any whip you choose. Of course, you can't neglect the rapier either. Get that Devil May Cry style 1000 stab. Works really well on the small fry, but bigger enemies, the range is just much too short. Some bosses also drop crazy specific weapons, like this umbrella blood sword thing. The next few weapons are straight up Symphony of the Night bootlegs. Starting off with the the bandit sword. Yeah, that teleport slash looks pretty damn familiar. Then we have the Flying Edge, which is exactly like the Heaven Sword. Once again, it's one of the better weapons of the game, just it'd be cool if they put a newer spin on it. Yeah. These. You can't call yourself the Symphony of the Night spiritual successor without your very own Chrysogrim. I'm glad to see that it's front and center and still highly broken. Oh, don't worry. I'll demonstrate this in detail just a little bit. But first I want to talk about some of the cool locations you see here in the castle. You really get a wide range of areas in this one. You start out in a mostly destroyed village, much like the one in Rondo of Blood. You visit ancient Japanese castles, laboratories, underground volcanoes, deserts, all these weird places, even a clock tower knockoff. One of the coolest things though is in the library where you get to meet an old friend. Yeah, you ain't fooling anybody with that there mustache, Alucard. Like in Symphony of the Night, you do gain abilities from bosses that help you progress through the castle. Take this one for instance. It's like a speed of light thunder god teleport technique. Stuff like this is what really varies the gameplay a lot. We can't mention cool places to explore in the castle without mentioning the 8-bit Nightmare. It's a full-on Castlevania 1 style mini-dungeon where you get to fight NES style enemies with all of your 3D rendered power. And before you ask, yeah, even these enemies drop abilities for you to use. I promised you broken Chrysogrim style gameplay. You're getting broken Chrysogrim style gameplay. This is the boss rush. And as you can see, these bosses go down in literally seconds. When you combine the Chrysogrim knockoff with the ability to summon a circle of big spender Kickstarter patrons, you end up unleashing a devastating flurry of attacks that nothing can stand up to. I'm just gonna cut these fights together real fast so you can see how it just wrecks shop. Anywho, like Symphony of the Night, through some twists and turns, you find yourself having to fight some ungodly massive beast in the dead bottom of the castle. At this point, you're so OP that whatever the hell this thing is doesn't even get a second thought. And like Symphony of the Night, once the day is saved, your boy Joey Alchemist chimes in with the, "Oh yeah, I set bombs all over this piece." And then he proceeds to nuke the castle so no more demons can get through. Once again, a happy ending for everyone. Well, except for the village that was destroyed. And all of your friends that die. But we mostly good. So I definitely picked a hard one to start out with. I was thinking when I started this something old, something new, it'd be like, oh yeah, I definitely got a clear shot in my mind. Especially with this episode. I was so sure that Castlevania Symphony of the Night was going to be my go-to choice. But after playing through both games all the way, I'm going to have to give it to Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. The reason for this is since Castlevania Symphony of the Night, they've made so many more Metroidvania games that they've made plenty of progress in the genre. And Bloodstained had the advantage of stealing all those great ideas and making one comprehensive, perfect spiritual successor. So, like I said, for this one, gonna have to give it to Bloodstained. Thanks again for stopping by and checking out my first video. If you agree or disagree with my choice, please let me know down in those comments below. Give me a like or dislike if you hated it, I guess. Consider subscribing, man. We're gonna have videos every week from now on, and ring that stupid bell thing so you get notified so you don't miss any of them. And thanks again. Take it easy.